of me, isn't it? To paint without your company. But I did it, and just felt like I had to just nail some things down before I brought you in. So I feel pretty comfortable. Most of the work is done. Let me zoom in to the middle of the painting here so you can see what I've done and what I'm doing. Yeah, I'll come down just a little bit. I've been painting pretty slowly for the last couple of hours. And by the way, if you want to watch me do all of the work up until this point, that is everything I did yesterday. You can go to yesterday's broadcast and see what I did there. So I'm obviously giving very much attention to play of light. Nothing new there. It's always about the play of light. Giving a lot of attention to focus, to hard edge, soft edge, and so forth. Let me pick you up and give you a wild ride just for a second and try to give you a better view. I know the glare is really bad, but that's close to the top of the canvas and coming down. So you'll see the sky is all very soft, but these buildings right here, sorry about that bad shadow, these buildings are fairly sharp and crisp, again, in sort of an abstract-ish kind of way. I don't, paying a lot of attention to brush strokes. Again, so there's our Capitol dome. These flags are not finished. I've got like 2 layers, maybe 3 layers of those flags done and a couple layers to go yet. So I'll work on those in a minute. But then much of the painting out here down in the corners is going to remain very abstract all along the bottom. This car is real close to taking too much attention, so I don't want to do much. Likewise, these cars over here need to remain pretty abstract. Anyway, so that's maybe a better, closer look at what's going on. I need to do some real quick drawing of these abstract cars down here in the corner. When I was showing them to you, I said, "Oh, wait a minute. Let me fix some of that drawing there a little bit. They need to be taller than they are." So I'll try to remember to widen that back out after I finish. Yeah, so these cars need to be a little bit higher. And while I'm doing dark stuff, and of course, anytime you do dark, pretty much, you're doing transparent dark, as I'm doing right now, right? Make sure if you want anything on your canvas to be darker, that you're using lots of mediums so that the color you're putting on is transparent. I really haven't paid much attention to these cars at all. And of course, when I say pay attention, that does not translate into details. Just whatever is there needs to be accurate, but I don't want very much there. Again, I don't want to draw very much attention at all, because they would be distracting, I feel like. So I want these vehicles to remain fairly abstract. But I can go ahead and start doing a few taillights. I have a process. You could say a formula, I suppose, for doing taillights. The first thing is you do a pretty wide aura of red Likewise up here, car way at the end of the street. Just a glow of fairly dark red. Oh, and there were supposed to be street lights in this painting. I just realized that just now. I'll put one up there and another one down here, because these would be rendered pretty much in the same manner as the taillights. Okay, so there's layer number 1 for the taillights. Now basically we just progress from red to lighter to lighter to lighter. Lighter red and warmer red, so more orange-ish, more yellowish, and lighter. So the next layer of glow is going to be just a little bit narrower, skinnier, smaller than the previous glow. Likewise up here. Does not need to be very neat. In fact, neatness could be rightly regarded as the enemy in this context. I don't want it to be very neat at all. Okay, so there's second layer. Now let's do third. I'm going to pick up some Indian yellow and titanium white. My brushes are still dirty, so to speak, with the red. Still had red on the brushes, but now I'm making it a lighter red, more titanium white. And if it starts looking pinkish, then you need to pick up more yellow. And Indian yellow is my favorite. It's very strong, transparent. Okay, let's see if this looks like the right color. Yeah, I think so. So again, just still a little bit messy. I'm use my finger actually to make that a bit of a glow. And don't forget the reflection on the road. Yeah, I think that's all right. And this distant car way up here. Again, reflection. And stoplights. I've talked about this before. Let me mention this again. How do you paint a red light, a light that's glowing? Here's a funny thing, and if some of you have tried it, you may know, you can hold your mouth every way imaginable. You can try to paint bright red 17 different ways, and it will not look like a bright red light. The only way to create the illusion of a bright red light, so again, we see a lot of these in the modern world, right? Traffic lights and tail lights. This is a classic example of the red light problem. You can, as I said, paint it 17 different ways of red, and it will not look. It'll look like a dark hole of red. The only way to make it look that I know of, and I'd be delighted to be corrected on this, but I don't think there is. I don't think there is a way to correct me. I think I'm right. That the only way to indicate a bright red light is in fact to do what I'm doing here. Red aura, and then orange, yellow, white epicenter, depending now on some of these. I won't get to white. I'll finish at yellow. So now I'm mixing up a very pale yellow orange on my brushes. Can you see that? Now that looks quite a bit like red lights shining. I'm going to do something I rarely do. I'm actually going to come in here and just soften up the edges of that center a little bit. Usually I don't do this, but it was feeling a little bit harsh to me. So there, just softened it a little bit. Let's do the same thing on these traffic lights, red traffic lights. Now, one of the questions I have is, if you take a camera, any kind of camera, and take a picture of a red light, like a red stoplight, this is what your photograph will show you. Will be a red aura and a white or light epicenter. And I don't know if photography has trained Western modern civilization, human beings, that makes us think it looks bright, or would a 17th century person recognize this as a bright glowing red light? Because when you're out in real life, when we are out in real life and we look at taillights or stoplights, our eyes can focus right at the very center of that red light, and our eyes interpret it completely as red. It doesn't look like this at all. Are you with me? It actually does not look like this at all. We see it as red. But if you try to paint it that way, it will not come off as a glowing light. It will look like a dark red blob or a pink blob, but it won't look like it's glowing. Anyway, there. Enough of that, I think. I'm going to do some headlights. Maybe I'll do that now since I'm in the business of doing glowing lights. Headlights are a little bit easier because there's not nearly as much color, but I'm using the same brushes here and I want to get all the red mashed out of them. But there is still a little bit of an aura with headlights. Typically warm, although now with whatever xenon bulbs or whatever headlights are being made of nowadays, the blue headlights, but I'm not going to do blue headlights in this painting. That would be, it might be realistic, but it would just be weird. So a little bit of a glow now. Yeah, I think I'll turn on this car. I think I'll turn on its headlights. Let me see if those. Nope. So here's a funny. That if I do that, that makes that vehicle too large. So I need to put the headlights closer together because that's what tells us how big the vehicle is. Again, use my finger to. I could have done this, of course, in the glow stage. I could have painted these headlights. But at the time, I didn't even know where the headlights were going to end up being, so. Okay, so this is a little bit simpler. And then pure titanium white. Right in the center. So what I'm trying to indicate here is that these are two vehicles, backed up close to each other. That's too much busyness there, right there. So let me come in here and just smooth this out. By the way, headlights in the evening on a paved street will reflect. Like right now, it looks like it's raining here, which is fine with me. It's a very misty atmosphere. Doesn't matter to me if the viewer interprets it as a rainy night or not. But a pavement will reflect quite a bit of lights if they're far away like this. Even dry pavement will reflect to a large degree. Okay, back to some of the other glowing things. I never finished the glowing windows in the building at the end of the street. So let's do that right now. Again, very similar kind of process. If you want something to look like it's glowing, then of course you give it very soft edges. The softer the edge, the more it has a glow about it. So I want this whole area back here just to be flooded in a diffused light. By the way, again, here's a photograph of the scene that I was painting last night. So I certainly am exaggerating the light effect back there in the distance. In reality, it's much clearer, but I don't want to paint it that clear. I want it to be much more romantic. Can I say that? More romantic than realistic. I want to come in here and add just a little bit more glow. Maybe a little bit of reflection on the roof of these cars. Okay, back you up. So time perhaps now to go to the next step on these flags. Yeah. White stripes next. The last step I did on the flags was a hint at the red stripes. So let's come in and do a little bit more development in the white stripes. The paint on my brushes right now is actually quite far from white. It looks white up there because of all the dark around it, but this is actually quite a dirty dirty gray that's on my brushes right now, which is quite the lesson in how our eyes see, because that looks so bright. In fact, I'm afraid it might be a little bit too bright. So then we get even dirtier here. I'm mixing blue, ultramarine blue, and I had a pile of pale orange here. So blue and orange mixed together, right? Gray, indeed. The thing about the American flag, of course any flag, is it's made out of cloth, right? It's made out of fabric. In fact, very thin fabric. Bunting I think might be the literal word. And the fabric flutters. It doesn't, now let me come down. It doesn't, it's not a stiff board. Many times when I see people with painted flags, it's much too rigid, much too stiff. So this easel is quite slow. It's coming down little by little into reach, and that gets it out of the glare that you were struggling with as well. Once again, I'm so sorry, folks. I'm not seeing any comments today. I understand that last night several of you had a great time commenting, talking to each other. I'm so glad you did. Glad to hear it. But I'm still, so I'm. If somebody's a techie expert and you can tell me what's wrong with I'm using the Mevo camera app, and somehow I've got this setting somewhere that I've accidentally turned off my comments, so I'm not seeing your chat. I can see comments, but I can't see chat. Sorry about that. So if you're saying anything to me, I am so sorry. So I was starting to say that the flag is made out of fabric, so you don't paint stripes like You don't go. You see how it's all jittery? That's a good word, isn't it? My strokes are jittery, light and dark, and broken. It gives the impression of a fabric shimmering in the breeze, which is of course what we want. I'm going to go ahead and actually I'm going to make this darker again, a little bit more ultramarine. So again, on over here on my palette, it looks like about a number 3 gray, which is amazingly maybe a 2 or 3. But when I put it up here, it looks like, wow, that's bright. That's just amazing how sensitive our eyes are and how our eyes really don't see what we think they're seeing. Our eyes judge color and values based on the surrounding. Now I'm going to do a trick here. I'm using my thumb as a stamp pad. Let me do that trick again. So I'm going to put down just a few dots representing a few random stars. Then I'm going to take my thumb, push it, pick it up, and move it over, and some of those stars get replicated, but they're fuzzier, which is a good way to be. Does that make sense? So I'm not done with these flags. I've got probably one more layer to go, maybe. Although, man, they look pretty good just the way they are right now. So I'll have to rethink that. But I didn't think I was finished with them. Usually I do 4 or 5 layers on when I do flags. And I've got a whole row of flags down the far side of the street. So I'll go ahead but they're farther away, of course. So they need to be considerably more abstract than the few flags that I just did. I will post, as I try to always do, I will post a finished image of this painting on YouTube Community, I think it's called. So those of you who have subscribed to my channel, you'll get it, or if you follow, I'm not sure if it's follow or subscribe. I'm sure if you follow, you'll get a notification. If you subscribe, I think you might receive a notification, that I've posted something, and you should be able to see it. If you don't see that, you can always go to my Facebook, which is the same handle basically as my YouTube channel, which is Dan the Art Man. So Facebook.com/Dan the Art Man. And you can see pretty much all of my finished paintings get posted there. So I'm trying to stay really abstract with these flags. Just want to give the impression of stars and stripes. It's really easy to start getting too, and the further away they go, the more abstract they become. Here I'm just letting my brush skitter across the canvas, and it's basically just the texture of the canvas is creating a little bit of a brokenness. I just realized that I missed a flag up here that I want to, again, very far away, so up close flags are an awful lot easier to paint than far away ones. And there's even a flag here on the Capitol building. When you do stuff like this, it really tests your ability to abstract an object. Of course, as artists, that's what we're doing all the time. We are abstracting objects. Even the most hyper-realists are abstracting. If you don't understand what I mean by that, let's say you want to do, as I saw a couple years ago at Art Oil Painters of America, someone had done a hyper-realistic painting of a horse. It was literally every hair, every eyelash painted on purpose. But it's an abstract painting. Now, I'm talking like an artist here. I'm talking like an art professor. Why was even that painting abstract? Very, 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 very simple. First of all, is it a real horse? Would anyone walk into the room and mistake this painting for a real horse? The answer is, of course not. I wanted to say a horse is a horse, of course. But of course, very few people listening to me would have any idea what I was talking about. So never mind. But no, nobody would mistake it. Why? Well, most obviously because because why is a hyper realistic painting of a horse an abstract painting? Well, because a horse is three-dimensional and moving and breathing and has flies flying around its head and is blinking and is moving and is chewing. Do you understand? That's what a real horse is. A horse that's painted two-dimensional is I'm going to play with you. It's an extreme abstraction compared to the reality. Now, sculpture, on the other hand, sculpture can get several ticks closer to reality than a painter can, because at least a sculptor can do three-dimensional. And some of you have seen examples of hyper-realistic sculpture. Well, you know, Madame Tussauds, right? Wax museum type stuff so it's obvious that sculpture is much more realistic than paintings. But even there, they're not real, are they? I mean, you know, Disney has spent millions of dollars trying to create animatronics of, you know, like all the presidents and all the other stuff that look real. Millions of dollars, and they still don't look real. They're pretty good for a machine, but nobody mistakes them for the real thing. Nobody mistakes them for the real thing. Again, why? You know, the real president walks in, wipes his chin with his sleeve and sticks his finger in his ear and breathes and coughs and says, "Hello, ma'am." I don't know which president that was, but anyway. So all art is abstract. The point I'm trying to make here, I'm being kind of like a professor. All art is abstract, no matter how realistic it is. So the dividing line of art is not realism versus abstract. That is not the great divide. Oh, that's as far as I'm going to. What is a great divide? Well, never mind. I don't want to get into that right now. I'll talk about it. I talk about it plenty of other times. No doubt I'll come back to it again sometime. But just understand that all painting is abstract. That's the main point I want to make at the moment. Now, I decided to mix up just a little bit brighter red so I can come in and hit some of these flag stripes one more time. And then I'll come back with white one more time. And when I say white, of course, I don't mean white. I mean just slightly lighter than what's already here. Yeah, I'm glad I did that. I wasn't sure that I needed to do one more light layer, but I'm very glad that I've chosen to do that. Those flags just came to life to a significantly greater degree. Let's do just a little bit over here. Not quite as bright because it's further away, so it's not going to have quite the energy, not quite the same energy as the up close flags. So I'm trying to imitate, and by the way, right now I am completely painting out of my head. I'm not painting from the photograph. Let me look real quickly and check out the flags. Whoops. Here we go. There's a distant flag. So my flags are much more dramatic than those. I like mine much better. It's always one of the artist's job is, in fact, to improve on reality, not to copy it. Okay, I'm done with that. I'm going to put these brushes away and get out some clean ones to do the lighter shade of white, lighter than what I did a little while ago. Again, not white, still not white, but lighter than what I did a little while ago. Let's go back to the closer flags. Okay, get you in focus. So the principle here is very simple. Wherever I have light red, in between the daubs of light red, I'll do the lightest white. Again, I'm not painting stripes. That's again, if you want just the biggest mistake that most people make when they're painting American flag is they paint stripes. Now, let me stand back for a second. Let's see. Yeah, I think that's all right. I think my client, the people I'm doing this painting for, I'm pretty sure they mentioned, I have it in my notes, that they kind of liked the flags that I did in one of my other paintings. I hope that was this client. I should have looked at my notes before I started painting again today. But I'm liking quite a bit the way this is looking. So I don't think they'll complain about the flags are too much. Yeah. Okay, same thing back over here with these other flags. Again, a little bit more abstract, a little bit looser, not as bright a color on my brushes now, because they're further away. So, oh, and I haven't come back and done the stars yet. I do the same thing with the stars. So one of the principles you can see me exercising here in this while I'm doing American flags is I paint in layers, paint in stages, step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so forth. And in fact, that's how you paint any highly variegated, textured, busy, detailed subject matter, like trees. How do you paint trees? The answer is layers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's not the whole answer, but that's a big part of the answer. And again, compared to what most students typically do, that would be a huge improvement for most students, instead of trying to paint a tree all in one whack, so to speak. So same thing with flags. Layer, step 1, step 2, step 3. I didn't define all the steps here, I know that. Okay, now back over here to do the stars. Again, I have just a slightly lighter, and I just want to come in here, just hit 1 or 2 dots again, so it feels as though I do it 3 times, and then the 3rd time it's way too big. So I'm going to try to remove some of that dot with the handle of my brush. I think that'll do. Yeah, so there we go. Just a few dots that are brighter than the rest, so it looks like a flag shimmering in the breeze. And over here on this side, same thing. Just a few brighter spots. I've got one more thing to do on these flags, and that is the blue. So surprise, surprise, contrary to what most of you, most students would have done, there's an underpainting of blue here, but my last touch with blue, a slightly brighter blue than what's there, I do the stars first and the blue second. The opposite most of you would have thought. Most of you would have done the blue first. In fact, you would have painted the blue field. Very much like what I did in the underpainting. I just did a slab of blue, but then I came and did stars on it. Most of you would have done this color, the final blue, and then done stars on that. But no, do the stars first and then paint around the stars the blue. Oh boy, now you're going to ask why. Well, for those of you who believe me, just trust me and do what I say, okay? For those of you who don't, um, why? Well, because if you paint a slab of blue, this last color blue, it's going to be flat and boring. It won't look like fabric. It'll look like a blue board, stiff board that somebody stuck up there. And you don't want that. You want a shimmery, wiggly field of blue to represent the field of stars. Now that we're in a little closer, let me zoom in as much as I can on these two flags so that you can see the effect. In fact, you already see there's already a variety in the intensity of the blue that's already here, and I'm just going to amplify that slightly. There are actually several reasons for painting around the stars instead of painting the blue first and then painting the stars on top of it. One of the reasons is because our eyes, this is a universal principle, breakable law of painting kind of thing, our eyes get a kick out of being fooled about what's on top of what. So our logic tells us that the white paint of the stars should be on top of the blue fabric. Are you with me? Logic would say, oh yeah, the artist should paint the blue and then come back and do dots of white. But when we do the opposite, our brain is momentarily bamboozled, momentarily confused. And believe it or not, that momentary confusion strikes our brain. A little drop of joy juice gets released in our brain. That is, we get an aesthetic buzz when we're slightly confused. Because on second glance, we discover, oh, wait a minute, I'm not sure. It looks to me like that light blue is on top of the stars, star layer, which of course it is. That's as much as I'm going to go into that detail right there. I think this is probably a good place for me to stop. Again, let me show you the painting. I wish there was some way for me to do it. Let's see what that, not bad. I mean, it's probably going to be grainy because it's so underexposed, but let me try to let you see the painting. There's the top. There's the bottom. In reality, I'll turn the light back on, see the colors a little bit. Oof. That was painful, wasn't it? There, that's a little bit more realistic to the color. But if I go any higher than that, all you get is glare, so sorry about that. So that's my painting that I started yesterday morning. I have one little trick. I can diminish the glare slightly by pulling that light in. Started this last night at about 5 o'clock and wasn't able to finish downtown, so obviously I finished today. I'm 99% done. I have to do a little bit on these figures down here and a little bit on these cars, but it'll be so fiddly little stuff that I'm afraid I'll be boring you. So I'm going to let it go at that. You've seen me do the fun stuff. Again, the flags, that was kind of fun. I talk often about how to paint flags, American flags. Sorry for all my friends elsewhere in the world. I'm being very Uncle Sam centric, aren't I? Okay, that's good enough. Thanks you guys for watching. Appreciate it. Please leave comments. I'm sorry I didn't see your chats, but when I finish this, I'll post pictures of it on YouTube and on Facebook. And if you enjoyed this, please subscribe, and of course, please tell your friends to watch me, especially your artist friends. And I'll be back again soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.